And now, broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. We are going to start today's show with a simple moment of silence to honor those who lost their lives yesterday in the tragic and completely unnecessary mass murder incident that occurred in San Bernardino. And we're going to follow that up with prayers. Yes, I said prayers for all of the families who have been affected, those who have been wounded, those who have lost loved ones. This has touched every community in the Inland Empire, including right here in the mountain community with the loss of a beloved father of six, Michael Wetzel. And we will get into... We're going to tell you some of the stories of the victims, because we're not going to honor these worthless Islamic jihadist pieces of you-know-what, not on this show, but what we are going to do, we're going to open the show with a very good friend who's in high demand right now. We've only got him for about 10 minutes, and that's A.W.R. Hawkins, who needs no introduction. Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks, Tim. Great to be with you.
And unfortunately, we are back talking about another incident of mass murder, and this one took place not less than 18 miles from my home and took people from my own community. And I read your piece today at Breitbart.com, and I was just starting to feel some anger, and then it just escalated, and it's righteous anger. You have all kinds of presidential candidates on the Republican side who have been saying, and there have been a few Democrats, but not at the presidential level, who have said, let us pray for the victims and their families and in this whole situation. And they were mocked and ridiculed by members of the leftist media establishment.
Right. Yeah, by the New York Daily News, basically the thrust of the New York Daily News was to mock them for invoking God instead of invoking gun control. And, the cover of the Daily News said, God isn't going to fix this. And the funny thing is, of course, without going too far afield, it is the attempts to drive God out of culture that have led to these kind of shootings. Because we've always had access to guns in this country. We've always kept them in places where we could reach them if we needed them for self-defense. They've been close, they've been accessible, and we haven't used them to kill one another in these ways until the left was successful with a multicultural drive to drive out the dominance of Christianity and replace it with a plural system that opens the door to secularists as well as people of religions where the idea of dying for your religion is a ticket to heaven. So we're in a mess. We're in a pickle. And then in the middle of all this, you get a couple of people, Republican candidates, who will actually pray to God and pray for the victims, and they're mocked by the New York Daily News. That's what we're dealing with.
Well, and I went through, and we're going to go in more depth later on in the show, but I went through the comments of each of the presidential candidates on the Democrat side, and you had Martin O'Malley blaming the NRA. You had Hillary Clinton calling for more gun control, along with Barack Obama. And here's the thing. You have been really systematic and methodical at breaking down the myths. And one of the myths here is, okay, let's just say, for argument's sake, that I am a proponent of gun control. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm pushing for more gun control. What would you say to me if I say we need stronger background checks, we need to limit magazines to how many rounds can be in a magazine, like California is trying to do, to maybe 10 rounds, and you know, we need to make sure that the mentally ill can't get firearms, and people on the no-fly zone list that they can't also procure firearms.
Right. You mean, what would I say to you if you had just said that to me?
Yeah.
I would say, well, it seems to me that you want to limit, my understanding is that you want to limit magazine capacity to the same capacity that Elliot Rodger used in his attack in Santa Barbara. So no one can have a bigger magazine than the ones he used when he killed 3 people with his gun, and that's a 10-round magazine. So see, that shows how self-defeating that whole proposal is. When you talk about background checks, you know, it's harder to name a high-profile public shooter who didn't pass a background check than who did. That's the bottom line. It's that
right.
easy.
And this guy did. This Syed Farouk passed the background check.
Yeah,
he was born here, by the way, and he's a U.S. citizen, and he legally owned his gun. Now, there are reports coming out right now that the magazines that he had were of higher capacity than is legally allowed in California. Surprise, surprise. A guy that wants to commit mass murder is not following the letter of the law when it comes to how many bullets he can have in his gun, but the government wants to limit how many I can have in mine to shoot back.
Right. Anything they report along the lines of what you just reported, these leftists will get all happy and come out and go, oh, the magazine's too big, he wasn't supposed to have it, Well, I hope they do that, because every time they say that, what they're really telling me is gun control failed. Gun control is impotent. Gun control failed. Gun control is impotent. Because if the law is there, but it's so easy to break that this guy broke it, and no one even knew or detected that he had broken it prior to him breaking it in a bigger way and taking life. If that's how impotent these laws are, they're simply making our point for us. If they want to sit here and dwell on magazine capacity, whether it was legal or not, so on and so forth.
Well, and I was watching one video, I believe it was on the Today Show, and they stated that there were 6 mass shootings in the United States just this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, they do that by using an outlet called, I think it's called a shooting tracker. And what that does is it rejects the FBI's mass shooting criteria of 4 fatalities. And what it says instead is that in a shooting incident, and that incident could last a long time. It doesn't have to be one shooter. 4 people are wounded. So if 4 people are wounded, then it's a mass shooting. So now what they're doing is they're tracking. See, suddenly, all the black lives in Chicago matter. So they're tracking all of the gang violence, and every time there's a gang event where 4 people are wounded, boom, they beef it up as a mass shooting. So that's how they're hopping those numbers up. It's a fictitious play, but most people not understanding, and I don't say that critically, people don't understand how the left works because the left is illogical, and people aren't given to think that way. You have to force yourself to think against yourself to understand the left. Rose McCowan is a actress. I wrote a piece on her early this morning. You know, she came out and she said there have been 355 mass shootings this year. She's using those figures that I told you about and that methodology. And it's embarrassing. She should be embarrassed for even putting that in print. She put that in a tweet. She should be embarrassed. She should wear a bag over her head for doing that. But she won't, because her goal is to limit your freedom and limit mine. So she'll say whatever she has to say to get that done.
Wow. So going forward, I was writing out on a piece of paper of literally what we could do And I came up with the fact, first of all, more gun control is just stupid. It doesn't bear any, it provides no solutions because criminals don't and mass murderers don't abide by gun laws. We know that even if they legally buy their guns, they're buying their guns to murder people. So they're in a very different category than the rest of us. They also had a dozen pipe bombs that they made from non-controlled materials. You really can't stop people from doing that. So here's what I came up with, a list of exactly two things that I think we could do. Well, actually three. One, given that we keep letting people come here from countries whose religion says they have a right to kill us, I believe we should have a moratorium on all future immigration from any Muslim nation until further notice, period.
Right.
And number two, we need to change our mindset. We need to accept and understand that evil exists, and it is our duty to confront it, and that we are now soldiers on the front lines. This is the end of political correctness. So once you change your mindset like they did in Israel, because Israel is surrounded by their enemies, and in Israel, every citizen is considered a frontline soldier. So what does a frontline soldier need? Of course, they need a weapon. So we need to keep and bear arms, and we need to carry. We need to familiarize ourselves with our weapon, and we need to carry it, and we need to understand there is going to possibly come a time when we're going to have to use it to defend the lives of ourselves and innocent people.
Right. No, I'm with you. You know, we're going to have to, I wrote a piece on a sheriff up in New York. He's about an hour north of New York, and he is urging residents in his county, if you have a concealed carry weapons permit, carry every day, all the time. That's what he came out and said today. And that's in response to the shooting. So that's the very thing you're saying. And of course, he didn't say it, but the rest of it is this. When you carry it, be ready to use it. And I don't mean be eager to use it, and I don't mean use it when you shouldn't, but I mean get your mind right so that when the threat comes, you have already gone through your mind that this threat was a possibility, and you're ready to meet it with that weapon that you're carrying for that very reason. And I think that is the response. I think you're spot on. And I do think, I heard Brad Bohr, the author, I have a lot of respect for him. I heard him on Fox last night saying exactly what you're saying about a moratorium. And I believe there's just going to have to be a moratorium, no matter how it makes some people feel, no matter when the left tells us, oh, we're going back to internment camps, when they start throwing out all their hyperbole, we need to laugh in their face and go forward with the moratorium. That's what we need to do.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins, I wish I had you for longer, but I know you're in high demand, so we're going to let you go. But thank you for not only coming on the show and talking with us, but thank you for continuing to expose the truth in your writing. And if you are new to the show and you've never read Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins, he's at Breitbart.com, and he always has the latest, and he is the one who does it in the least number of words. One shot, one kill for Dr. A.W.R. Hawkins. Hey, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be with you.
Godspeed. We'll be right back after these messages. We'll take your calls, 323-746-TALK. Welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. We are wading through the myths and separating out the facts and coming up with what you can do, what you can actually do about this. We're going to go back to the phones because throughout this whole show, we're going to take your calls because I know there's a lot of people want to talk. And we're going to be covering this all day today. And so feel free at any time. The number is 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255. Going to take a call from, I'm not sure where, but hey, first name and city. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, my name is Dennis, Pigeon Hills.
Dennis from Pinion Hills, how are you?
I'm pretty good, Tim, considering what took place yesterday. First of all, I'd just like to put my condolences out there to the families of the victims and the people that are wounded, and the permanent life-changing scenario that's going to take place in everyone's life. It's absolute insanity. It's here in our backyard now. And, whenever I watch any of these politicians the last 24 hours start talking about gun control, it is just such a moot point now, and it looks so ridiculous. We do not have time to be talking about that. Even if this incident wouldn't have taken place yesterday, the genie's out of the bottle. There's many guns out there already. And as far as talking about that's ridiculous. We have to get to the point where we can carry, and we're going to have to start carrying full time. The problem is, I'm not a real big gun guy. I own a gun. I didn't want to have anything to do with guns after I got out of the service. I was just turned off by the whole thing with all the killing. But about 15 years went by, and I got myself a gun. I decided I needed protection. I was robbed one time, and that's all it took. But we're living in a complete different world now, and it's very naive for people to think any talk about gun control is it's ridiculous. That ship has sailed. There's, like I said, so many guns out there, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, and Mike, I'm sorry, Dennis. Yeah. The whole point is, let's just be pragmatic. What possible good is gun control going to do when somebody is absolutely hell-bent on killing as many people as possible? And they don't care about gun laws. They don't care about the consequences. They're going to go into a place where there are, let's say, 75 people, and they're going to try to kill them all. And they've got enough bullets, and they've got body armor, and they've got tactical gear, and they've put masks on so that nobody will know their identity. It just seems as if the whole thing is pointless because it isn't going to do any good.
It is. It's pointless. It's a waste of time to even talk about. I'm all for, law-abiding citizens owning, guns. I'm down with that. But, anybody can get a gun. You buy it on the black market. You haven't shipped in from overseas. I mean, we just cannot stop that. What we need to concentrate on is the people that come into this country that are thinking this myth that they're going to blast a bunch of people and end up in heaven or whatever the hell they believe. It's absolutely dumb. We need to, I was listening to Marco Rubio earlier on TV, and he says we need to confront this in all ways, especially with the propaganda thing. They got their propaganda. We need to put more of ours out to fight this thing. We need to do whatever we can. We're all in danger right now, and it's sad. And we need to do anything we can to not have another Democrat in the office next time around. We have to
Dennis,
do something.
Thanks for the call. That's one thing I didn't think of mentioning. We can keep Democrats from taking the White House. Hey, 323-746-TALK. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in California. And we are talking to you. And by the way, if you want to call in, 323-746-8255, 323-746-TALK is our number. Going to go to Mike in Bakersfield. Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I do not know what I can contribute to your show, but I've got to tell you that hearing you on Jazz McKay just before you went on the air here, you inspired me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And what was what was I talking about?
Well, you were talking about how it's time for people to walk about being armed, and whether or not you have a CCW to be armed, and to tell the government to go pound sand.
Yeah, well, I mean, the government does not have a right to put your life at risk, and they have put our lives at risk with these idiotic, politically correct policies of letting people come into this country who believe they have some fundamental religious right to murder in the name of Allah. And since they won't listen to us about that, they're not going to be able to protect us. So it's left to you. So the question is, Mike, are you going to only carry your firearm? Are you only going to exercise your natural civil and constitutional right to defend your very life and the lives of others, as well as your freedom, only if you have a piece of paper that says that you can? I mean, that's ludicrous.
Well, yes, it is ludicrous, and that's why I'm sitting out in my backyard with my dogs right now, with my 1911 right next to me, and a 8-round Chip McCormick mag sitting ready to go and snap into the gun.
Mike, I think I
rock and roll.
I think I got you beat, Mike, because I'm sitting here at my studio desk with an M1 carbine. It's a short rifle, World War II era, with a 15-round magazine.
I love it.
It's not as powerful as your 45 1911, which is, by the way, is my favorite gun on the planet. But the whole point is that if you're going to live free, you've got to be able to think free. And if the government tells you you can only have 10 rounds in your 45 1911, and you decide that you're going to carry 14 rounds or 16 rounds or however many you can get if you get a double stack, I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to throw you in jail after you have saved the lives of dozens of people, or are they going to call you a hero?
Well, they're going to try and throw me in jail, and actually, I'm at the point, we're at war, and I'm at the point where I don't care if they try to throw me in jail. And listening to you on Jazz's show crystallized that for me. Now what I need to do is figure out how to carry a full-size 1911 in my Levi's that want to fall off of me anyhow, and not print until I want to use the weapon.
Yeah, well, you need to go over. You need to go over and see Gene Thome over at his gun store. He'll hook you up.
It's Thome.
Yeah, I always mispronounce his name. But Mike, you know what? Thanks for calling in all the way from Bakersfield, and keep the faith out there, because
thank you for having me.
Absolutely,
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking with you, and we'll.
It's a privilege talking to you.
Well,
you have a
hopefully
wonderful afternoon, sir.
You'll tune in and call in again from up there in Kern County. We're gonna go to another call, and not sure where this caller's from. Hey, give me your first name and city.
Shelby in Hesperia.
Hi, Shelby. How are you?
Good. You know, a lot of people go on about how Obama is stupid or ignorant, like he doesn't know what's going on, but I have a feeling he knows exactly what's going on, and that he wants this kind of stuff to happen. He wants the attacks to happen. He wants to bring in illegal immigrants to basically damage the country. I feel like he's trying to damage the country as most he can.
Well, hey, you could be right. I don't know what's in Obama's head, if anything, but he doesn't. He does not want to confront that. I'm crystal clear about. He doesn't want to confront Islamic extremism. But he wants to confront you and I. He has no problem confronting people he considers to be rednecks, people he considers to be white privilege recipients, people who own guns, who cling to bitterly to their guns and religion. He's got no problem with that as long as they're white Christians. But when it comes to Islamic terrorists, when it comes, I don't even like using the word terrorist. It's jihadist, because they had a mission. They went in there with a mission. I don't believe that they planned to kill all those people yesterday. I think they planned to kill a lot more people on a different day. But he got ticked off, couldn't control himself, dragged his wife in there. They had all the stuff ready to go. They just weren't planning to do it that day. I don't believe that.
Yeah, there's no doubt it was obviously an act of terrorism. I just can't stand the fact that they're trying to cover it as just workplace violence.
Well, no, everybody who has a brain knows it's not workplace violence. Workplace violence is when Joe Blow goes home, grabs their gun, comes back, and shoots the place up. They might have 2 or 3 guns on them. They usually don't bring their body armor because they're just angry and disgruntled, and they've been thinking about it for a while, and they finally just snap. But it's usually one person. It's not two.
Yeah, they definitely don't. They definitely don't bring assault rifles, professional gear, and explosives to a simple workplace.
Well, Shelby, let's not use terms like assault rifles. That's a term of the left. It is a fake, fraudulent term that has been made up to promote the gun control agenda, which is merely a control agenda. Look, I'm holding what they would classify as an assault weapon, except they don't, because it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. But it is as deadly as any assault weapon of today, quote unquote. And as I stated earlier,
what's that? Make it an assault weapon? If someone intentionally hits someone with their car, it's like, are they going to ban cars because now that car is an assault weapon?
Well, no. Their logic never extends beyond guns. It's always gunmen. It's always shooter. It's always mass shooting. It's never mass murder, mass killing. These are mass murderers, hell-bent on killing, and we need to talk about that. Now, why they kill, we're going to get into that a little bit later, but the bottom line is our government is not willing to speak about their mission as jihadists, let alone confront it. So therefore, we have to protect ourselves. Thanks for the call, Shelby. We will continue to take your calls here at the Radio Free California Network, 323-746-TALK. But I want to play you a little clip of the dictator-in-chief, the gun controller-in-chief, I don't know what to call him today, this is his reaction, and it's completely devoid of the same passion that he would have had if this individual had been Dylan Roof, who killed 9 black people in a church and could easily be demonized as a white supremacist, whereas these are Obama's people, the Islamic people. Here we go.
At this stage, we do not yet know why this terrible event occurred. We do know that the 2 individuals who were killed were equipped with weapons and appeared to have access to additional weaponry at their homes. But we don't know why they did it. We don't know at this point the extent of their plans. We do not know their motivations. And I just received a briefing from FBI Director Comey as well as Attorney General Lynch indicating the course of their investigation. At this point, this is now a FBI investigation that's been done in cooperation and consultation with local law enforcement. It is possible that this was terrorist related, but we don't know. It's also possible that this was workplace related. And until the FBI has been able to conduct what are going to be a large number of interviews until we understand the nature of the workplace relationship between the individual and his superiors, because he worked with the organization where this terrible shooting took place. Until all the social media and electronic information has been exploited, we're just not going to be able to answer those questions. But what I can assure the American people is we're going to get to the bottom of this, and that we are going to be vigilant, as we always are, in getting the facts before we issue any decisive judgments in terms of how this occurred.
It would have been so nice. It would have been so nice to have Obama take this same tone, this reverence, this calm, very slow, lilting tone and tempo to his speaking when it was 9 Black Americans who had been tragically murdered by a white supremacist. But no, he was convicting the Tea Party, he was convicting conservatives, he was convicting the NRA, he was convicting anybody who had ever looked at the Confederate flag. And this is why he is simply a community organizer. He is not a leader of any kind. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to get into the question, does it matter to you? And does it matter if it was terrorism? 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls when we come back. Hey, welcome back to the show. We played your clip of President Obama making ridiculous comments about work. We don't know yet what the motive was. We don't know if it was terrorism. We don't know if it was workplace violence. So I'm offering up a simple question of my own. Does it matter? Do you care? If someone wants you dead, if someone bursts into your workplace or into a concert or into a mall and they are dressed in body armor and they are waving around a long gun with lots of bullets in it and they start shooting and killing people, do you care why they're doing it? No. You just want to prevent it. Do you care if the killer is killed with an assault weapon? Or do you just want him dead? And do you care if he's Islamic or Catholic or Baptist or Methodist? Oh, that's right. The Catholic and Baptist and Methodist, I'm sorry. They generally don't run around slaughtering people so that they can get to heaven and get 72 virgins. No, you just want them dead. Simple as that. We're going to go to the phones, see what you think about it. Hey, first name and city. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi, Tim. This is Alan in Hesperia.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Oh, just fine, thank you. It doesn't make any difference to me who shoots, if they're a Islamic terrorist or who they are that is doing the killing, because people wind up dead. But I heard something today on the 960 station that was kind of interesting. The terrorist that worked for the county that did all that shooting was a Muslim, and his supervisor permitted him to go home 5 times a day to pray, and he paid him for it, or they paid him for it. And I think it's time to sit down with that person's supervisor and have a discussion.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, this is America, and we do have freedom of religion here, but how far does that extend, and what responsibility? Because this is taxpayer dollars. And bottom line, if you have somebody who is so devout that they want to go home and pray 5 times a day, that might make me a little bit nervous as a supervisor, and I might want to understand a lot more about this person.
It would make me very nervous as a co-worker, and the first thing I'd be doing is lining up an attorney if one of my loved ones was killed, and go after the county for that stupidity. Because that is really stupid not to recognize that. I've never worked in a place that would permit someone to leave the workplace 5 times a day, paying them at the same time to go home and pray.
Yeah.
Have you?
No. It's a ludicrous proposition, Alan. You make a good point, and we do need to remember this guy worked for the government.
That's true.
He worked for you
and
and
they're
I.
very lenient. Mm-hmm. Yeah, spending our money.
Yeah, but
So
they
I
want to
think
take
it's
your
time
they
to
want to
sit down.
take your guns away, Alan. They don't trust you. Want to take your guns away.
But why didn't the supervisor raise a flag?
Well,
And I think that's going to be become a real issue.
I think you're right. I'm going to let you go here, Alan. But I think you're exactly right, because what I think we're dealing with, and we saw this in one of the news stories. One of the neighbors actually said they saw a dozen Middle Eastern men going to this one apartment carrying all kinds of stuff in the middle of the night or something like that. And they thought it was odd and out of the ordinary, but they didn't report it to anyone because, quote, they didn't want to be called racist for racially profiling someone. Now think about that. Because of race, because of political correctness, because of someone being afraid to be called a name. And why are people afraid to be called a name? Because our culture turns on anyone who says anything about anyone of another race, even if it's true, who says anything about anyone if they happen to be Islamic. That's the protected faith, protected religion. Well, things are going to change. 323-746-TALK. We will be right back after these messages. So we're going to take you through what we do know. And right now, because of course we were live with you yesterday as the shootouts occurred and this whole thing came to an end. We didn't know it at the time because police were being extremely cautious, but at least 14 people were killed, 21 others injured in the shooting at the Inland Regional Center yesterday in San Bernardino. And among those were people that we know, people that you might know. And in a minute here, I'm going to go through the victims, at least the ones that we know right now. We don't have a list of all of them. I just want to make that clear. But I want to tell you that the couple that killed the 14 and injured the 21, Syed Rizwan Farouk. So Syed Farouk and his wife, Tafsheen Malik, 28 years old and 27 years old, respectively, they were killed in that SUV. So when that shooting happened, the suspects, the killers, were killed. We don't have to have a trial now. We're not going to have to spend money. We're not going to have to give them special treatment so they can pray to Allah 5 times a day and have a special prayer rug and a special meal and menu in a halal or whatever the heck it is. I don't know. I might have got that wrong. But whatever the special menu is for Muslims, they're not going to have it in prison because they're in hell. The cops fired 1,600 rounds on San Bernardino Avenue, and this happened just off the 210 freeway near some manufacturing businesses just past Toyota of San Bernardino. I mean, it was an extraordinary shootout, and amazing that no civilians were killed. And a little bit later, we're going to play you, in our next segment, we're going to play you a clip of a hero, a cop who is a hero, who just, he's so calm. He leads the people out of the building while everybody else is under fire, and he protects all their lives and assures them. And it's a pretty extraordinary moment. And with all the fire that our cops have been under, we're going to give them some kudos here. But first, I just want to finish with what we do know. We know that Malik, the wife, is a Pakistani American. She became a citizen here. She came in on a K-1 visa, fiance visa. And that right there is something we could potentially work on. Is why would we allow someone to come in from Saudi Arabia at this point, which sponsors terrorism, which trains terrorists? We shouldn't be taking anyone from Saudi Arabia, period. And I'm saying we should have a moratorium on all Muslim nations, zero immigration. I'm sorry, but the bad guys ruined it for you. So we're going to have zero immigration from any of these countries until we get this thing under control. And maybe that's never, I don't know. But it's the only thing that makes any sense. In this report I'm reading, it says a motive has yet to be determined. I really don't give a crap what the motive was. I don't know that we need some long-winded search for the motive. The guy was a jihadist. Maybe he wasn't a jihadist at birth, but he became one. And he's a U.S. citizen. He was born in this country. If you could be born in this country and be turned against this country and recruited into this insane movement, this insane ideology that says you have a right to murder innocent people for no reason at all, except that you think it's going to advance you in the kingdom of 72 virgins in your twisted, bizarre faith. I have no sympathy. I have no empathy. I have no regard at all for those who are tolerant within our government and encouraging, and I'm sure they were thrilled in the name of political correctness. Oh my gosh, we have a woman, she's Pakistani. Oh, she's going to help us with the quota. You know what? Screw that. We don't need any more people in this country. We got plenty. Maybe we should start having more babies. Maybe we should stop letting people kill us. But I digress. I said I want to actually, I'm going to read you a different article and give you a sense of the victims, because they're the ones who are important here, and it is them that we must honor with what we do and how we react to this. The first victim that I'm going to share with you is someone that there's a beautiful picture of him up at the website at People Magazine. His name is Michael Wetzel. He was a father of 6. He worked as a supervising environmental health specialist with the county. And he was from right up here in Lake Arrowhead where I live. And well, I actually live in Twin Peaks, which is near there. But his wife, Renee, put out an appeal for prayer, and it's heartbreaking. She said, "Please pray. My husband was in a meeting and a shooter came in. There are multiple people dead, shot. I can't get a hold of him." She wrote that on a website on Wednesday, and then 8 hours later, she found out that he was deceased. Another, by the way, he's the father of 6 children. So 6 children are now without a father. Nicholas Thalasinos, and I was looking on his page. He was a co-worker of Farouk. His wife, Jennifer, said that he was just a nice guy, and he knew he was a deeply faithful man. He, on his Facebook page, it says he's pro-Zionist, which may be one of the reasons he was targeted. Who knows? But his wife said she had actually spoken to him about Farouk, and he worked with him, and he talked about him, and never said anything negative. So, if you're looking for motive and cause, you may not find any. He believed he had the right to kill innocent people regardless of having a reason. That's my whole point. Another victim is Damian Means. The wife of Damian Means confirmed by phone to People magazine the 58-year-old man from Riverside is unfortunately one of the victims. He was an employee of the San Bernardino County of Environmental Health, had worked there for 28 years and planned to retire. He leaves behind 2 daughters. And another victim is a young woman named Sierra Claiborne. She'd been working with the county since 2013. And her friends and family took to Facebook to lament her loss. Rest in peace, baby sis. I know I love you now more than ever, her sister Tamisha Claiborne wrote. Rest in peace. Daniel Kaufman is another of the victims. He ran the coffee shop in Building 3 at the Inland Regional Center where the shooting took place. For nearly a day, his boyfriend, Ryan Reyes, waited for the news of what happened to him. And first, Reyes heard that Kaufman had only been shot in the arm and would survive. And unfortunately, that was not the case. And there is another husband from Rialto. And that's an incomplete list. I want you to know. We'll get the rest of the names as they are released. Another husband is named Arlen Vertahue. He is waiting, even now, for word on his wife, Benetta. He had not heard from her since they texted each other at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. He's been holding out hope. And he knows that he's probably going to get a phone call or somebody's going to come to the door. And that's here right before Christmas. He was out Christmas shopping for her, and she had just decorated their tree. He makes the comment, there's no reason for evilness in this world. And so we need to hold all of these families up in prayer. And I don't care if the media wants to mock those of us who pray, who actually believe in a living and true God, not one that tells us to go murder innocent people, but actually tells us to protect life and protect the innocent and stand up against evil. And I'm a lot more comfortable talking about standing up against evil than I am about telling you about people who might even be neighbors of mine who are now no longer with us. We will take a quick break. 323-746-TALK if you want to weigh in on the conversation on any aspect of it. We'll take your calls when we return. Well, on the break, I just received the full updated list of those who were slain in yesterday's tragic mass murder incident in San Bernardino. They are, and I don't think they're in any particular order, Shannon Johnson, 45 years old, of Los Angeles. Benetta Bet Badal, 46, of Rialto. So that husband is going to, obviously will already have received that news. Aurora Godoy, 26, of San Jacinto. Isaac Amianos, 60, of Fontana. Larry Kaufman, 42, of Rialto. Harry Bauman, 46, of Upland. Yvette Velasco, 27, of Fontana. Sierra Claiborne, 27, of Moreno Valley. Robert Adams, 40 years of age, from Yucaipa. Nicholas Thalasinos, 52, of Colton. Tin Nguyen, 31, of Santa Ana. Juan Espinoza, 50, of Highland. Damian Means, 58, of Riverside. And Michael Wetzel, 37, of Lake Arrowhead. 2 from Lake Arrowhead. And it is so difficult to read all those names. In part, as I'm reading them, I'm noticing These names represent all kinds of backgrounds. This is not just whites or blacks or Hispanics or whomever who were slaughtered by those hell-bent on evil. And, you know, it reminds me of something important. We live in a society where people of all walks of life get along peaceably. And peaceably, in spite of the fact that the vast majority of us own firearms. We're just not murderers. We don't have an ideology that says I can go kill 25 people, and if I'm killed in the process, then I'm going to go meet with 72 virgins. We believe if you kill 25 people, you're going to go have a date with the devil in the depths of hell. And we're more than happy to arrange it. And one of the most important things that I think needs to come out of this, because we need to figure out what do we learn as Americans so that we can prevent or mitigate the next time this happens. And it will happen. It will happen not because we have too many guns. It will happen because we have too many people who have invited evil into their souls. And some of them are doing it as part of what's called an Islamic jihad. They're jihadists, meaning they are extremists. They are radicalized to the point that they believe they have the right to murder you in the name of their religion. Other people are just mentally disturbed people that want to get in the newspapers. They want their 15 seconds of fame, and so they go shoot up a school or what have you. But whether it is whether the cause or the motivation is Islamic jihadism, or whether it is just some other sort of evil, matters not. All that matters in the end is whether or not we're equipped to prevent it. And see, that starts with a mindset. We have to change our mindset here in the United States and stop thinking that we are living in peacetime and take a warlike mentality. We are frontline soldiers in a war that has been declared on us. It is a war declared by evil against good. It is declared by those who are murderers and who are looking for innocent prey. They're looking for soft targets for a reason. They're not going to go into a city or they're not going to go into a police station and shoot it up because they know all the cops are armed. Well, guess what? If we let them know, and if we commit to being armed at all times, to go ahead and procure a firearm, preferably at Turner, since they support this show. Mention my name and they'll give you a discount. But once you have that firearm, that's not enough. You have to do two things. One, you have to practice with it and get training. You go to any gun range in Southern California, you will find people who will train you for free because they have time on their hands, they have experience, and they have knowledge, and they would love to share it with you. But number two, and note, I didn't say go get a CCW. Whether you go get one or not, I could care less. That might make you feel better, but don't delay simply because you don't have that piece of paper. Because you never know when this is going to strike. ISIS has made it clear, and we'll play the video when we get back from this next break. I want to play you a video of ISIS, and you can hear the guy in English for once. And he tells you exactly what they're planning to do next. And it's very instructive to know your enemy. But the other thing you need to do is you need to change your mindset. And that's maybe harder than just training with a gun. And your mindset needs to be, I am prepared to take out evil Instead of standing there with your mouth open going, oh my God, is this really happening? You have to be able to react in a way. And that way you could prevent, maybe you could prevent anyone from getting killed. That might be kind of a high bar, given this guy and this woman burst into the room with body armor on, and they had semi-automatic rifles that are capable of firing a large number of bullets in a few seconds. That's just the nature. But you could certainly mitigate it. You could slow it down. You could stop it. And see, eventually, there won't be any payoff for the killers. And when the payoff isn't there anymore, because they're going to get killed before they fire a shot, or they're going to get killed before they can kill enough people to get to the 72 virgins, or to get in the newspapers, then we will have taken back our communities. And we will have taken back the idea that you can peacefully assemble in a free society, because one of the byproducts of freedom is risk. And I know a lot of people are going to be freaking out right now saying, oh my gosh, you can't have everybody be armed. Well, you know what? Right now, the only people armed are the bad guys. They ignore all the rules, and they don't care. So we're talking about stopping murderers. 323-746-TALK. We'll be right back, and we'll take more of your calls. Hey, welcome back. This is the Radio Free California Network. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in California. And I want to play you a video of ISIS, who is celebrating this taking of human life, of innocent life, and promising more. And for once, the video, if you listen carefully, is in English.
Wallahi, we will revenge. Wallahi, we will revenge even after a while we have revenge. The revenge has started and your blood will flow. France was the beginning. Tomorrow will be Washington. It will be New York and it will be Moscow. You Russian, don't you think that we forgot you? Wallahi, your time is coming. It is coming, and it will be the worst. We will come to you with our weapons and explosives. You will not have safety even in the bedroom of your houses.
طريق وهذه الأعلام فاصدع بأمرك إنه الإسلام قد عاد يعلو ناشرا نور الهدى بغداد قامت واستفاق الشام.
Praise be to Allah, who enabled the martyrdom-seeking lions to storm the capital of France, the carrier of banner of Crusaders in Europe. Wallahi, Dawlatul Islam is a state. And for those who never believed or were sleeping, they have seen the thunderous action of the lions. It is a state. When you violate its right, your hands is bound to get burnt. Or you Crusaders, you claim to want to degrade and fight the Islamic State while you fail to secure your nations and your capitals. How come shall you degrade us? You call your armies to the, like France called their armies in the street of Paris, but rest assured they will avail them nothing. We will come to them from where they did not expect. For my advice to you, all Crusaders, is to hold your hands against fighting us and start paying jizya. For there will be no safety in this world from our guns, from our bullets, and from our explosives. We will come to you. You want your safety? Come and pay jizya and hold your hands against us. For nothing that will only guarantee your safety. They cannot protect their cities. How come they will protect you? We will slaughter you, all of you.
And there you have it. ISIS is promising to come and commit more murder, more mayhem, and they ridicule, in particular the United States, for not being able to secure its border. I don't know if you caught that in the beginning, and I thought that was interesting. Look, these guys are masters at recruitment. They have great social media. They make great videos. I hate the message, but it's great propaganda. And with the Marxist progressives who make up the vast majority of college professors who hate this country, they have a ready and willing captive audience here in the United States that is just dying. The ground's been tilled. The seed's been planted. All they have to do is water it and harvest it. And you are going to see, I believe, in our lifetime, a lot more of this homegrown terrorism, but it isn't the rednecks from up in the hills that Obama hates so much. It isn't the Christians that they think are shooting up. I don't know if you heard it. One of the initial stories was they were shooting up a Planned Parenthood clinic. These guys are such morons. You can't even describe it. There's one CNN anchor, we'll play you the clip in the next segment, that said, it would be right-wing extremists, but we have a right-wing extremist on the phone from I don't know if we can call it redneck country there in North Carolina without getting shot, but anyway, welcome to the show, John.
Tiff, call it the way you see it. It just
I will not
matter.
say I'm sorry.
No, well, it's not the time to give the I'm sorry count, but I want to call and check in, see how y'all doing. Our thoughts and prayers from North Kakalaki are going out to everybody in San Bernardino County. So,
well, thank you for that, John. There's a lot of grieving. It really hit me today when I saw there were people from my own little town here in the mountains, and then it's not strangers. It's not people in France. It's people right here in your backyard who work with you, who might go to church with you, who, whose kids played together on soccer teams, etc.
Yep, exactly. I was kind of a loss for words, but I'll tell you what, I did like one of your first segments that came out of New York, of all places. The sheriff or whoever it was, he said, you need to carry, and you carry 24/7. And guess what I left home today with, which I normally don't do.
You were carrying?
I left home.
With a Glock, though.
Well, no, I just have my pistol. It's a 9mm, but I don't normally carry it. But I don't have to deal with this kind of stuff because I'm on the East Coast and a pretty quiet little town, so I don't have to worry about it. But
you know what?
I loaded it up and I took it with me today.
I'm glad you did, because look, if you want to strike terror into the hearts of Americans, you notice they didn't go to New York, they didn't go to Los Angeles, they didn't go to some big major city. They went to a relatively rural area, even though the city itself is not rural, but the outlying areas, and they struck there. Now, we don't know if they intended, this was their intended jihad plan. I don't believe it was. I believe the guy lost control of himself. I think he got angry at somebody, and that became his excuse, his trigger, and he was like, okay, we're doing it. And ran home, got all the stuff they'd been preparing.
They had bigger plans, but they decided to change their plans, and this is where we're going to do it now today and get it started. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But,
that's what seems most logical. But nonetheless, the only proven antidote to evil is to put evil in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the only good jihadist is a dead jihadist. The only good mass murderer is a dead mass murderer. And so Americans need to change their thinking. Jerry Brown, before he took off for Paris, before we knew that we'd actually killed the actual killers and murderers, he said, well, we'll do everything in our power to bring them to justice. Well, there is no justice in situations like this. There has to be a reckoning, and we need to kill them. I don't want to bring them to trial. I don't want to give them rights and then have to feed them some special diet for the rest of their lives in prison while they plot against us and recruit a whole bunch more jihadis. I want them dead.
Total agreement, and we don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah. And we're going to play a clip from the cops did an outstanding job. They were doing basic police work by going to the house or the apartment. And what's strange is this little intersection where all this went down. That's a place my wife and I go all the time because we have, as I've said on the show, our cars are Toyotas. They have, 400,000 and 250,000 miles respectively on them. So we live in the repair shop, and that's the repair shop we go to is at the corner, not too far from where this shootout occurred. 1,600 rounds. You got to hand it to the cops that they did not shoot or hit any innocent civilians, and didn't hit each other in crossfire because there's a risk of that. So anyway, I'm. Hats off to the San Bernardino Police, the San Bernardino Sheriffs, and the FBI and ATF for their bravery and their composure in this whole situation.
And everybody that's against the cops now, I heard a clip on something today, somewhere on a show or the news that said, come on, are you ready? And they must have been, a little bit weary about going because, hey, look, I'm going to take the bullet before you do. So
that's right. We're going to play that clip. No, you're exactly right. We're going to play that clip when we get back, John. Thanks for doing the segue for us.
Okay. You're very welcome. All right. Well, good talking to you. I know there's other people you got on. Take care. And
thanks for the call, John. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Godspeed.
Right.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll play you the clip of the hero cop. Give you something positive in contrast to that ISIS video threatening further jihad. Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network, where we are talking about, of course, the San Bernardino mass murder incident and the aftermath. And we have a video. I want to give you something positive to think about. We've heard the Black Lives Matter movement demonize cops, wholesale blanket demonization. All cops are evil. All cops are bad. They want cops dead. Well, you know what? To all you out there with your Black Lives Matter, you can shove it. Because nobody cares about that. Yeah, Black Lives matter, but they don't matter more than everybody else's lives. And when you want cops dead, you're the first people who will demand cops to be there. And these leftists who support Black Lives Matter, oh yeah, what's their big deal? They want to take guns away from you and I, and the only people they want to have guns are cops. But oh yeah, they forgot they don't trust cops. Yeah. How's that working out for you? Well, this clip is a cop who went into a building knowing that there were active shooters who were in body armor, who probably have better, more powerful weapons than he has. In the video I looked at, it looks like, and Sean, you can correct me, but it looks like he has a Mini 14 stainless ranch rifle that has a removable magazine that could, well, in California can only hold 10 rounds, but presumably, I'm pretty sure the cops are able to have more rounds. And see, I've always been a believer that whatever the cops can have, we should be able to have, period.
All of the firearms laws do not apply to peace officers.
Yeah, I had a feeling because I asked Sean because he's a former peace officer. All right, but let's roll this. And by the way, this is a San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy who comes in to one of the rooms where people have been holed up and leads them out to safety. And just want you to hear the sounds and listen to a hero cop.
Are you ready? If you're not cool, I'm not walking them, dude. Sir? Go. Walk to that deputy right there. Keep your hands where I can see him. All the way to that deputy. You're going to make the left of the deputy's eye. Thank you. Try to relax, everyone. Try to relax. I'll take a bullet before you do. That's for damn sure. Just be cool, okay? Both elevators. Wait till they both get here. Don't let them stack like that. Get them in the hall. We'll see what's safe.
Go.
And if you watch that video, you would see the officer lead them through these hallways. They have no idea what could be around the next corner. Could be another shooter. They had no idea how many shooters there were at that time. This was live and in the moment, and it certainly gives you a sense of the terror that has been created. And I don't like the word terrorist, because I think when people hear terrorist, they think foreign country, blowing things up, and they don't apply it to America. Maybe they apply it to 9/11, but in their minds they think, well, it's like an isolated incident. No, I think we're going to see terrorism among us, but I think we need to give it a new word. It is what I will call jihadism, or mass murder, or something else beyond the ordinary. We're going to go to the phones, get your reaction. Hey, give me your first name and city, please.
Yeah, my name's Nick. I'm calling you from Livermore.
Hi, Nick.
Hey,
welcome
Tim,
to the show.
Today, sir. Here's my biggest problem that we have right now is that when people have the basic understanding that when you think about that there was a third person, supposedly, who was on the run, possibly putting more people at harm. My biggest thing is, who do you think was the most secure in that moment? People who were armed and ready to defend their families. I don't like with the state of affairs where people get harmed or hurt or anything. But this is where we live. These are the times that we live in. And for us to sit there and act as if, we're just going to turn a blind eye to the reason why we have a Constitution, a Second Amendment, and so on and so forth, and act as if for some reason this tool is the perpetrator. We don't blame cars for drunk drivers. And for some reason, we isolate this particular tool. I don't care what type of tool it was. Evil's going to do evil. Timothy McVeigh did unspeakable acts, and not a single round was fired.
That's right. That's right, Nick.
I think we need to get real clear about what we're talking about here. And we are, I hate to say it, we are at war. And the only way a nation, a people can defend itself is when they have the ability to do so. And I think that that's really the focus that should be where our heads are at. But for some reason, a terrorist does something and we say, you know what? Let's give up more of our rights, more of our freedom. It's appalling to me.
You are exactly right, Nick. I'm not interrupting you because you're just so dead on. And that's what we've been talking about, and we'll continue the conversation right after this break. But thanks for calling from Livermore. And keep listening. And you, 323-746-TALK. We'll take your calls. You are tuned to the Radio Free California Network. I am Tim Donnelly, your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California. And as I promised, we are going to go straight to the phones, 323-746-TALK. talk. It's 323-746-8255. If you wish to get in on the conversation, give me your first name and city, if you would. Welcome to the show.
My name
You
is
are
Joe.
live on air.
Yeah, my name is Joe from Apple Valley.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm a little frustrated, but like we all are, I suppose. But the social climate that we have today, this politically correct agenda, along with the constant call of racism, kept this lady from saying anything to anybody about these neighbors that she had, and that alone could have averted this whole thing. That I'm I'm beside myself on what the country and what our social climate has turned into these days. That people are afraid to say something when they see something. It's just horrific that something like this could happen, and it could have easily been stopped ahead of time by just a few words. That's what's on my mind.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm with you, Joe, and I actually wrote a piece that'll be up at Breitbart.com later. It's going through the editing and censorship process because I'm a little bit outspoken and I'm a little bit pissed off, and I just don't care. You know,
I think
I've had
a lot of us are like that.
Yeah, I've had it.
A lot of us are like that.
And I agree 100% with what you're saying. Political correctness is to blame for this incident going through, where it could have been prevented possibly if law enforcement had been given those tips.
Yeah, you can see what they did once they got the tip of it. With the house and stuff.
Yeah, no, they took action, but I think this is a lesson. We have to take this lesson going forward and change our mindsets completely, and understand we have an obligation now. We are not just passive citizens. We are active citizens. We need to be engaged. We need to be armed, not just with the firearm, but we need to be armed with information, and we need to be vigilant and to be unafraid and outspoken.
100%. I mean, I don't mind the possession of the gun and whatnot, but that's not going to cure this thing 100%. We have to all work together as a team.
No,
and,
you're right. You're right, but it is part of the puzzle. We need to conceal carry, and we need to understand that when evil presents itself, we need to be prepared to respond, and to respond appropriately, and not worry about the consequences, because in the end, maybe there wouldn't be 14 dead. Maybe 2 or 3 of those lives could have been saved, or maybe 10 of those lives could have been saved.
Yeah, or 1. I mean, to me, it just any at all. But like I said, I just like to tell everybody, if you see anything, it's like the gal said earlier, if they're pink or red or purple, it don't matter what color they are. Say something to somebody.
Yeah,
that's where I get at. I mean,
exactly right, Joe. Thanks for the call.
I don't like to pigeonhole one type of person or religion or any of that. I'm just saying, be vigilant. If it hops like a rabbit, it's probably a rabbit.
Well, we're going to have to get over political correctness if we're going to effectively combat this type of evil. But Joe, thanks for the call. I'm going to pick up a call out of, it looks like, Ohio. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim, this is Michael. Hey, how are you?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, great. I'm great. I'm a recent transplant to California, having grown up in a state where gun laws are a little more sensible. And
wait, don't tell me you're from Ohio, Michael.
I am. I'm from Ohio.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I joke all the time. I've moved to another country living out here.
Yes, you have. I am a Wolverine, and so just don't tell me you went to Ohio State, and then maybe we can get along.
No, I went to the University of Cincinnati, so we got some.
All right. That's acceptable. We can be friends. So where do you call home now?
I now call Los Angeles home.
Okay. And what is your take on all this insanity?
Well, there's a couple takeaways from this. One of the things is, at the end of the day, all this nonsense aside, it was 2 people or 3 people, criminals who did this, right? It's 2 people who committed these acts, and speculating into all sorts of other scenarios and, deep-seated kind of stuff. At the end of the day, the blame lies on the people who did this and no one else. Because if we start going down that road, it becomes a slippery slope as to, what speech can be limited, what people can say, how these things become influenced. It doesn't matter. What matters is the proper people to be blamed for this are the criminals who carried it out.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And in the end, I put a post on Facebook and I just asked, hey, by the way, if somebody wants to kill you and your friends or you and a bunch of innocent people, do you care what their motivation is? Do you care whether or not they use or are killed by a quote-unquote assault weapon? And do you care if they're Islamic or Catholic or Baptist? I mean, does it matter?
Exactly. It shouldn't matter. Their intentions are their intentions.
All I care about, and I think all you care about, I want to prevent it. So how do we prevent people from being senselessly murdered, whether it's by an Islamic jihadist or a mentally deranged person? The only absolute positive defense is the one that everyone had to wait 4 minutes for, right? Which was the cops to show up. But we can't wait for the cops to show up because in 4 minutes, 14 or 40 or 400 people could be killed. So you need to be able to defend yourself because the government cannot protect you from this kind of a threat, period.
Well, and one of the things that I always find interesting is, historically when, these fights, these nonsense kind of false debates start over the Second Amendment, being for hunting or, fighting King George. The history behind the Second Amendment goes back to the 16th century German peasants' uprising. The lords couldn't possibly protect them from barbarians. So the peasants required that they carry military arms to protect themselves. That's it. You can't guarantee it. There are no guarantees on that safety. So you're just taking the rights right out of the hands of citizenry.
Yeah. Yes. And I would posit that our government officials, by not talking truthfully and openly and honestly about the nature of evil that has declared war on us, that they have put us at greater risk. So the obligation is 100% on us to protect ourselves from the government's failure and sometimes from the government itself. Because part of the Second Amendment was, at least in the mind of the founders, was to defend freedom from tyranny. And so it is.
And I think you just said it. You just said it right there. A politician's supposed to be giving us an honest debate. How are we supposed to get an honest debate from a group of people responsible for the killing of thousands overseas? Illegal drone wars, things like that. I mean, I'm supposed to be getting a moral lecture from the president as he's bombing a hospital in Afghanistan.
Yeah, if you're looking for anything moral from this president, I have not been able to figure out where or if he has a moral compass at all. I know one thing, he is hell-bent on protecting Islamists in particular from any criticism. If you listen to the clip we played earlier, it's nothing like if he thinks a Tea Party redneck committed a mass shooting, he is out the gate, he is popping off, he is saying whatever he wants. But if it's clear that it's somebody who is from the religion that he has decided singled out, and always, every time he makes a speech, he will always say, we need to wait till the facts come in, we need to be calm, we need to be careful. He never says that when it's Dylan Roof or something of that nature. I got to take a quick break. Michael, thank you for the call, and keep listening.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Made a new friend, even though he's from Ohio. We're gonna let him be a listener here at the Patriot, at the Radio Free California Network. Anyway, some great points there. We will take the rest of your calls. If you're on hold, stay there. Hey, you have stumbled onto the Radio Free California Network, and we, of course, are talking about the mass murders, the killings that took place in San Bernardino yesterday. I won't call it a mass shooting because it almost sounds like there was no one responsible, and that's ludicrous. We're taking your calls, 323-746-TALK. If you want to get in on the conversation, please give me your first name and city, and welcome to the show. You're live. You're up. That's you.
Hello, this is Jim from Hesperia.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Good evening, Tim. Nice speaking with you. I'm kind of a new listener here.
Well, good. Welcome to the Radio Free California Network. What's on your mind? What do you think about all this?
Oh, I think it's a terrible thing. I'm just not at all surprised, though, with all the open borders that we have and how liberal we are and everything. Just not at all surprised, and I expected this to happen actually on Thanksgiving Day, something like this to happen. And so I think, though, they were a little smart and decided to wait till security was down and stuff like that. Like you're saying, I think that they had bigger plans, and this may have been kind of like a dry run. What do you think?
Yeah, I clearly think they were planning something bigger, and this was not their plan. They went into jihad mode, but it was not on their timetable. They had been making the preparations, and they saw the opportunity, but I think it was provoked by some anger and hatred towards some individuals. There's a news report out of New York that this one individual that I talked about earlier, named Nicholas, on his Facebook page would regularly rant against Muslims. And, of course, that's his right of free speech. You don't deserve to die for saying whatever you want to say. And but evidently in the mindset of Syed Farouk, he couldn't hold off. And I think he snapped. And it was not your typical jihadi attack.
Now here's what mainly I was kind of calling about in regards to myself personally. Tuesday, this last Tuesday, I drove through that parking lot there in San Bernardino, right past all of those buildings. See, I have a warehouse equipment company up here in Hesperia. I sell pallet rack and shelving. Well, I go down to all Ontario and all of that area down there about 3 to 4 days a week, calling on customers, down there and stuff. And so when I headed down, it's a long drive down the hill and stuff like that. And it takes quite a while, and you get into all that traffic. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a Christian. Okay. And I don't know if that's going to get me shot or not, but I am a Christian. And what I do on my way down, I pray I say my prayers in the morning, and I ask the Lord, where I should go that day. Well, I went on Tuesday down there, and I didn't really finish up with what I was wanting to do down there. And so I was going to go back down on Wednesday morning. Well, as I was saying my prayers and stuff, and asked the Lord where he wanted me to go, well, he changed my mind, and I felt I had to go to Santa Fe Springs. So, that's where I ended up. And
Jim, that was
Santa Fe Springs.
That was a fortuitous detour. We're gonna thanks for your call. We're gonna take some other callers here. Grateful also that you pray. I think that's awesome. 626 number. Give me your first name and city, please. Say it again. You're breaking up a little bit.
It's number Narelle in Tosca Heights.
Oh, Narelle. Okay. Hi, Narelle. How are you? I'm gonna put you on hold because your cell is not coming through clear. See if you can get to a better spot so that we can actually hear you. I'm going to grab a different caller here for a minute.
Yes. Hi, Tim.
Hi,
This is
Barbara.
from
Welcome to the show.
I wanted to tell you that this is a very, very sad situation, of course. But personally, and there again, as a Christian, I've decided I'm going to take my own precautions. So I've wrapped all my ammo with bacon. So if I have to use it, I'm going to be ready.
Oh, my word. And Barbara, I love you. You are just... you always have some kind of a curveball for me.
Yeah. Well, I heard one of those cops were eating a big bacon wrapped hamburger, and so he kind of put he put one of those shells he had in that bacon before he fired it. So, what they thought was going to happen isn't going to happen. So that's it. No, yeah. I made that up, Tim. Yeah.
Well, you know what, but you gave me an idea. Maybe when you see a cop, you could offer to buy him a bacon cheeseburger. How about that?
Okay, that sounds like a deal. Yeah, I'll do it. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the call. If you're still out there, Narelle, give us a call back from a landline if you have one. But our number is 323-746-8255 if you want to get in on the conversation. We have a CNN video. Sean, I don't know if there's enough time to play it, but the part I want to get to is very early on. Let's see if we could roll that real quick for the break. The CNN video, could you grab that one real quick? I only need a couple of seconds of it. It's the one where the guy is saying that he thinks it was right-wing extremists.
When you hear Bob talking about the unprecedented nature and the concern he feels when three shooters, we've only had 2 multiple shooter incidents since the year 2000, and none of them have been anything like this. But if it is not an international incident, then what could it be?
It could be some right-wing group, for all I know. What's really strange about this attack to me is I'm thinking, if this attack was somehow terrorist related, ISIS or Al Qaeda, something like that, why wouldn't they just stay there and kill as many people as possible, and kill themselves? Because usually you see that a lot also in these types of attacks.
Right. It was not a suicide mission, Bob. To Harry's point.
Right. It wasn't. Listen, I'm not discounting anything Bob's saying because I'm speculating like the rest of us here. So that's something else I'm taking a look at here. And their plan, like I said before, was great until they got out of the area where they did the shooting, and then these guys still stuck around. This shows me some level of stupidity on their part.
CNN and a number of Democrat politicians. I'm going to read you what some of the Democrats, like Hillary Clinton, said when we get back. But quick to judge the right wing. Of course, right-wing extremists. Only other option. 323-746-TALK. Take more of your calls when we get back. So in the middle of the active shooter situation, with dead bodies still warm, wounded victims still on scene, and killers still on the run, Democrat presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton sought to exploit the San Bernardino mass shooting for political gain. She tweeted, "I refuse to accept this as normal. Quote, we must take action to stop gun violence now," end quote. Her Democrat rivals were no better. Martin O'Malley called for Americans to stand up to the NRA. And Senator Bernie Sanders declared gun violence must stop. Now, Bernie Sanders is only concerned about gun violence, not murder. He's not concerned about getting to the root of an understanding so that we can end and prevent this kind of unnecessary murder. These were murders committed by someone for ideological reasons, more than likely. But whatever it was, he was planning a jihadist attack. That's clear. This is a man who grew up here in the United States with all the benefits, all of the fruits of liberty, all of the bounty of this country. And excuse me for a moment. I took so many notes today, or made so many notes, that I am shifting through pages. But I wanted to know a little bit about who these killers were. I'm glad that I can say that in the past tense. And I don't really care if they were terrorists. More importantly, I care that they were jihadists, because it tells me that there are no rules to modify or be able to truly understand their behavior. They don't live by the rules of civilized people. Civilized people, you might see a killing that makes sense, that in our society where we might say, well, that was justified. If someone breaks into your home and threatens your family and comes at you with a weapon, you kill them. You may not want to do that, but nobody's going to blame you for that. Same thing when there's a reasonable man standard. If you come in and you find your wife in bed with someone else and you grab a gun and shoot him, that's understandable. It's not excusable, but it's understandable and predictable. But this, there is no way to predict this. First of all, Syed Farouk was a U.S.-born citizen. He wasn't an immigrant, so we can stop all immigration, and still he was here. And why is that important? It's important because we need to understand that probably, more than likely, the only point we will be able to stop and prevent unnecessary deaths and murders is at the tip of the spear. It's literally going to be the moment that the jihadist pulls the weapon. Now, if he decides to blow himself up, we're SOL. But if he pulls out a gun, then I think there's going to be a whole lot more Americans, just like post 9/11, there were a whole lot more Americans who were flying, who were ready to follow Todd Beamer into that valley of the shadow of death. So Syed Farouk took a trip to Saudi Arabia and returned with a wife. You know, it's amazing. I hear all these stories about how hard it is to get into this country. I know people who it has been nearly impossible for them to get into this country legally. And this dude goes to Saudi Arabia, which is one of the places where they have all these terrorist training camps. They have all these Islamic jihadists training children to hate anyone who is not a purist, ideological Islamic jihadist, such as themselves. How is it that he's able to get his wife a K-1 fiance visa? She comes into the country. They're not married until they get here. It's sort of an agreement to get married. And then all of a sudden he starts growing a beard. They have a child, now 6 months old. And next thing you know, the guy's a jihadist. Next thing you know, he's making contact with people that the FBI, the NSA, and all these other groups are saying were Islamic extremists. They were Islamic jihadists. Well, I'm sorry. We've got a government that is spending an awful lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of manpower spying on Americans. And they can't do something when they see somebody who is playing the... No, I can't say playing with fire. It's not playing with fire. he's connecting to groups that are looking to recruit people and to form cells to kill Americans. Well, if he was making contact with them, why didn't the NSA or the FBI or all these other, why didn't they trace that back to him and see that he grew a beard and start saying, hey, wait a minute, what's up with this guy? And then, of course, we already told you at the beginning of the show, there was a neighbor who saw several Middle Eastern men, said almost a half a dozen, that were going in and out of an apartment. And this neighbor refused to tell authorities because they didn't want to racially profile. They didn't want to be called a name. And so they didn't report it. And see, that is the reinforcement of our culture of the political correctness that silences a true debate, that has silenced so many officials, not only from not taking action, they won't even say the words. They won't even utter it. Barack Obama is the president of the United States, and he couldn't say, hey, these are Islamic jihadists. I just got informed of this by the FBI. Instead, he lies. He comes out and lies because we all know this information was out there, but he didn't want to insult the faith that I believe he is secretly a follower, or he is simply sympathetic because they're doing the dirty work. Because he ultimately wants to see this country punished and taken down for what he considers to be crimes against the rest of the world. So you've got this anchor wife who is brought back here. She's a Pakistani. She gets this visa, and literally within 2 years, they're ready to just wholesale murder people. And by the way, the people they murdered had just finished holding a baby shower for them. Think about that. Think about what must be in their hearts. And so when you hear people like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley saying such patently stupid things that are incredibly offensive in the middle of a crisis that was brought on by their policies of refusing to speak the truth about Islamic jihadi activity and Islamic extremists. I got to give Governor Jerry Brown some kudos, because he didn't say anything about guns or politics, focused instead on the victims and the law enforcement personnel dealing with a life and death emergency, and said, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims' families and everyone affected by the brutal attack. California will spare no effort in bringing these killers to justice. No problem, Jerry. We already got him. He also ordered the flags at half staff at the state capitol. Now, that's an acceptable response. That's what a leader does. And I'm not, believe me, I don't want to get a bunch of emails hating me because I said something nice about Jerry Brown. But the ones who want to be our president going out there and making these mindless comments about disarming Americans, when at the very moment of impact, at the moment that one of these takes place, and there will be more, ISIS has promised that, and they probably won't be these huge events. They'll be small events that involve one or two people. And it's going to be on us. It's going to be on you and I to stop them. And if you haven't been listening to the show, I'm just going to tell you that my prescription is very simple. The first and most important thing that we need to do is change our thinking. We need to rebuke political correctness. We need to speak the truth and say to hell with the consequences. We don't care if you want to call us Islamophobes. You can shove it where the sun doesn't shine, because I am not going to be killed by someone so that they can believe they're on their way to 72 virgins. I intend to send them to the depths of hell, where they will certainly not find 72 virgins. And in order to do that, I've got to change my thinking first. And secondly, I've got to arm myself. And when I say change your thinking, I mean fundamentally understand that you are in a war that was declared on you, and you must understand that evil exists. Because if you don't understand that, you'll never be able to pull that trigger. The second thing, you need to buy a gun. Go to Turner's. They'll give you a discount if you mention my name. Go to a gun range. Get trained. Note, I didn't say go to the sheriff and ask for a CCW, because I really don't care if you get a CCW. That's not my job. And I don't believe you need a piece of paper to exercise a fundamental, natural, civil, and constitutional right that is inculcated and codified in the Bill of Rights. I just don't. So, but get the gun, get trained, become familiar with it, learn to use it, and you're going to have to train your mind to be ready in that instant if you're ever called upon. And God, I hope and pray that you never are. I certainly don't want to be, but I'm sitting here right now. And I have a gun that I'm sure Gavin Newsom would like to make illegal. He'd like I'm sitting here with an M1 carbine, has 15 rounds in this little tiny clip. It's a short-barreled carbine that shoots 30 caliber. Actually, they're like a pistol round. It's a great gun at 100 yards, close combat. And you can't beat it. 15 rounds, and you can reload it very quickly. I'd put it up against an AR any day. And bottom line, what's California want to do? Gavin Newsom wants to make this clip. Clip. It's a magazine. He wants to make this magazine illegal. This is a World War II era gun. Well, you know what, Gavin Newsom? You can just go F yourself. Because I will not comply if that becomes law here in the state of California. I will not surrender my magazines. So what are you going to do? You send the cops to my door? Go for it. Because I really don't care. You have to get into that mindset to understand that a law, a piece of paper, cannot strip you of a natural fundamental right. You have a right. It is a moral right to defend your life and the life of other innocent people against evil. We're going to take a quick break. 323-746-TALK, and we'll come back with your calls for the final segment. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm going to go straight to the phones and take your calls. I got Mike in Huntington Beach. Mike, welcome to the show.
Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Talked to friends of mine in Redlands and Riverside today. Everybody's shocked to death, and they're saddened, but I'm amazed how strong everybody is. And it's finally come home to roost in your guys' hometown, and it's going to change everybody's lives a lot. I just wanted to tell everybody, now's the time. Buy a gun, get professional training, get your CCW license, and do not be a sheep. You know, these folks know where the sheep are, and
you
that's
sound
where they go.
Exactly like me, except I don't tell them to get the CCW because I don't really care whether or not you have it. That's just a piece of paper. Yeah. And I know this is a controversial thing. A lot of people feel like they need that to have permission to carry. But in the end, would you rather be alive and charged with a misdemeanor, or would you rather be dead and be law-abiding?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. It's a great point. And I want to, tell people one of the skills we've lost in the modern world is what we learned as kids is connect the dots. And we need to not listen to the voices that constantly tell us to stop connecting dots, and to do so, because we see how our lives depend on it now.
Clearly.
Yeah, and we just simply cannot ignore the fact of Islamic extremism when it's in our backyards, like it is now. So, I don't really have any answers for anybody, but I just say, look, we can't ignore this anymore if we continue to put our heads in the sand.
Mike, I disagree with you. Yeah. You provided one part of the answer. I mean, two really. It kind of keys off what I've been talking about all day, which is, look, we've got to change our mindset first. It isn't enough to arm yourself with a firearm. You've got to arm yourself with information. You've got to arm yourself with a mentality that you are in a war that was declared on you. It was not a war of our choosing, was not started by us, but we're going to finish it. And when they come to take and harvest lives for Allah, we're going to send them screaming to the depths of hell, where there are no 72 virgins, with a hollow point to the head.
You got my vote, Tim.
Hey, I'm not running for anything. Come on.
Well, listen, I just want to say shout out to all my good friends in the Inland Empire, Unite IE, and Redlands Tea Party folks, and tell you I'm thinking about you, and hopefully we'll see you all soon, and stay strong until then.
Well, we appreciate the solidarity there from Huntington Beach, Mike. Thanks for the call.
You bet. Talk to you soon.
And that brings me to the final minute and a half of this show, which is, my producer just tells me I have a minute. That means I basically have to shut up and stop talking. But obviously this is very difficult because this has affected so many of us, so many of you. And the last thing I want to do in this show today is encourage each and every one of you, take a moment and pray for each of the families of the victims, for those who've been wounded, for those who've been traumatized, and for our nation, because the test is upon us as to whether or not we can answer the call and defend freedom against those who are intent on stamping it out. I believe we can. God bless you, and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show out.